Okay, welcome to today's episode, where we're getting up close and personal. Today's topic is intimacy on and beyond the physical. So we're talking intimacy in all its forms: emotional, mental, spiritual, even experiential. But here's the twist. I'm joined by an all-male panel who'll be opening up to me, a girl. Listen, this is an opportunity to hear deep, deep, dark secrets that maybe some of us that we can learn a thing or two. So I'm so excited about today, and I hope the gentlemen are going to be honest as possible. And this is literally the road less traveled. So please, it's going to be exciting. But before we allow the gentlemen to walk in, we apologize. We've been having, when nice things, they're trying to mess up our day. Bad things are trying to mess up our day. So we apologize for the technical glitch, but it's all sorted now and we are here. So before we start, can I see the gentleman that we are talking to today? Gentlemen, please reveal yourselves.
Hello.
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 Hello there. Mamel, I've got good looking guys. I am so blessed. I'm so lucky. From no boyfriend to charmers like you guys, all focused on me today. I've
Feel
made
very,
it
very
in,
special.
I've made it in life, Cam. It must be the glasses. Anyway,
Glasses are very spectacular.
thank you so much. So before we go on any further, I just want to have a disclaimer to say, guys, this is a safe space, right? So anything that you say doesn't have repercussions, doesn't have consequences. And for the sake of your openness, just believe that it's just me. You're just talking to me alone. Ne? Right. So as we start, I'd like for you guys to introduce yourselves and maybe just briefly tell us who you are, what you do, and what's the first thing that pops up into your mind when somebody says to you intimacy. Kim, you want to start?
Ooh. So my name is Cameron, and the first thing that pops into my mind when I think intimacy generally is physical, but it also my brain works in one of two ways. So it's either physical or talking, like sharing with each other. That's the only two ways my brain kind of like switches when the word intimacy is said.
Intimacy, yeah. Okay. All right. Interesting. But I love the fact that you actually started with physical as well. So that's because that's what everybody thinks. I had this conversation with somebody. I'm like, I'm hosting this podcast and we're talking intimacy. It's like, I know everything about sex. I'm like, no, calm down, calm yourself down, calm yourself down. Pilani? Pilani,
Oh,
please
hello.
introduce
Yes.
yourself.
Yes. My name is Pilani. Yeah, and like Kem, the very first thing that comes to mind when you say intimacy is sex. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, and then I had to take some time. I'm like, oh, but there's probably more than that. There's more to it than that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, there's probably more. But yeah, my name is Pilani, and lovely to be here, guys.
Awesome. Awesome. Another person who thought the first thing was sex. Itumeleng, Itu.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, Itu.
Hey, yes, my name is Itumeleng Sialetsa, from the East Rand. What I do, I'm a consultant by profession. Glad to be here with you guys on the panel. And to answer your question, the first thing that comes to mind when intimacy strikes is spending time. I think that's the one thing that just comes to mind. Although in terms of physicality and all of that takes place, I don't think of it in one aspect, but just spending time, focusing on something and just getting to understand it. That's what comes to mind.
Okay, spending time. That is very nice. That's wow. I'm sure the ladies that are listening, they're like, hi, Itumeleng, hi. Because you know how ladies are. Majority of the
Yes,
ladies spend time. You don't spend enough time with me. Oh my word. You
that's
know.
true. That's true.
Cab.
Oh yeah, we were supposed to say what we do, don't we, as well? That's probably
Yeah, but okay, do you want to go now?
sure, like while we're waiting for the camera
Cab.
to work. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do IT and development. So I do
Oh,
web and application development is my main source of work. And every now
okay.
and then I touch on speaking work, hence the
Oh,
thing here.
okay. Nice. Cam, what do you speak about normally?
Mm. Wine, generally just a lot
And
of
it's
music related topics most of the time, book related topics as
music.
well. Yeah.
Oh, oh,
Hobby of
okay.
mine. I enjoy it. So there's a few groups that I'm on that we just talk about music in general. So
Oh,
it's quite fun.
okay. Interesting. I've also been in music for I think for like 20 years now. I've been
Oh,
managing artists and stuff like that. So I do PR marketing and stuff like that. So yeah, interesting.
okay.
So I
That's
think
going to
we're
be an
going to
interesting.
have a lot to talk about, you and I, privately.
Mm.
Okay, Cab,
Oh, privately.
welcome. We see you are sorted. Welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Right.
Okay.
So I asked the gentlemen to introduce themselves and to also let us know what's the first thing that pops into your mind when you hear the word intimacy.
I'm Habran. I'm an entrepreneur. First thing that came to mind when we were discussing the term or thinking about the term, I just thought comfort.
Comfort.
Yeah.
Okay. How so?
I think it's a feeling that's subjective. It's it's different to everyone. It's
Mm-hmm.
universal. But at the end of the day, I think it's somewhere where you are safe, where you can be vulnerable, you can be open, and just be yourself. Let the edge
Okay.
off. So that's why I'm saying comfort. It should be a space whereby you are at ease with yourself.
Where it feels like home.
Yes, you're comfortable.
You're comfortable. So that's emotional intimacy, whereby you can brave everybody outside, but when you come home, you just need to be vulnerable. You just need to be open. You need to be comfortable. You need to feel like it's a safe space. Like whatever it is that I might go through, I will be okay. Correct?
Indeed, yeah.
Awesome. Anyone else who identifies with what Cam is saying?
Yeah.
Anyone else, Pilani? Your
Ah,
views on emotional intimacy and the comfort, the closeness, the being vulnerable, the basically just feeling home.
yeah, it's
Mm.
basically sort of like your safe space, place where you're being vulnerable, emotionally open, and it's intimate. And like the word as the name says, it could be like a small place. I'm just imagining a small setting where it's intimate, where you get to know the other person one-on-one type of view, and
Um,
yeah, your safe space basically.
oh, okay. Itumeleng, your thoughts, your views? Is it important to you? Also the comfort, the closeness, the vulnerability.
Yes, I think it's highly important. I think when one is immersed in something, it's very important that they get to a point where they are intimate, because then you understand something personally, which you become associated with but not attached with. And I use the word associated with because it's something that would breed familiarity. And I believe that's the way we should go in terms of everything that we do within our life. Well, looking at the four main pillars: spirituality, your family, relations with your friends, your work, your career, and your finances, of course. So I
Mm,
believe that it's an imperative for everyone.
Mm.
correct. So now let's say, what do you think about situations whereby girl meets boy and boy meets girl? It's a situation whereby you don't necessarily know each other, You obviously have never met before, so you don't know whether they are comfortable. You don't know anything about them. Can physical intimacy live there?
Ooh, that if you don't know them, if you don't know them and you're just meeting them for the first time, it's very, very dangerous for, at least I feel for me, it's very, very dangerous to assume that you can put anything physical forward until you've got to know them, heard from them that it's okay. Because the minute you don't, the minute you don't establish that kind of connection, like the boundaries or what is okay or what is not, not only is it makes each of you feel like uncomfortable if you don't establish that early on, but also it can be very, very dangerous. Like you assume, ah, I'll just put my hand on the shoulder or say hello or whatever the case may be. But then for them, they might feel, wait, why are you approaching me? We haven't talked. This is a problem, especially in this day and age. It's very dangerous to just go ahead and assume that you can, you know, cross that boundary if you don't know them from a bar of soap and if you haven't like talked to them before.
So, but are we therefore saying that the two people can meet and, for example, they won't be able to be intimate with each other on the first day because you don't know much about them? Because I want us to be honest and I want us to be frank about the realities that we go through as a people. We know, and I'm just going to mention a case, for example, with one night stands, where where the two people meet, they didn't know each other, and yeah, for some reason they get physical with each other.
Okay. In that context, unless it's established, unless it's like in no uncertain terms being said out loud, anything less than actually verbally getting confirmation from the partner that you're with and you're seeking that kind of thing for, highly dangerous for us guys. But at least for me, it's something I rarely tread there unless it has to be exceptionally clearly defined for me. It's a very, very dangerous water. At least that's what I found. I could be
Thanks,
alone
Cam.
here, but I don't think so.
Thanks. Thanks, Cam. Pilani, your thoughts?
My thought is I believe intimacy takes time to develop. And when you come to a situation where now you decide to be physical or have sex from the first time you meet someone, and I believe that is purely transactional and just serves the need at that time. And that is it. Intimacy for me goes beyond that, and it takes time to just build it up to the level where it's now no longer transactional, but it's part of an act of love. If you happen to get physical or have sex with someone, it's out of love now that it happens, and that comes after some time. So
Yeah.
that is what my views are.
You know what intrigues me? What intrigues me is the fact that the body is able to come to play. That one day you go out and you meet this particular individual, but for some reason, your body is able to come through. And let's say, for argument's sake, you end up saying to this person, come, let's go wherever together. Maybe you're not going to my house, maybe you're not going to your house. You know what? Let's just go sleep somewhere, I'll book or whatever. So these are the kind of conversations that I'd like us to have, because there's these diplomatic ones. So we're like, yeah, no, emotional and tonton. But in reality, we know that the situations where you leave the house, you're going to have fun. In fact, for some people, I know that they leave the house, they're like, you know what, I'm gonna get it today. So I just want, Cab, if you may, please just tell me, is physical intimacy possible without all these other intimacies, kinds of intimacies like spiritual, emotional, experiential, and whatnot?
Yeah, yeah.
Cab, sorry,
Oh,
Cabran,
no problem.
sorry, Cam.
No problem. I think when you speak of the physical aspect,
Yeah,
and then you dismiss all the other stuff or you decode them, remove
yeah,
them for the element, then I think the
Yeah.
physical parts or intimacy in its physical form,
Yeah.
it's more easy for everyone to do. It's more apparent.
It's
I think this day
easy.
and age, it's even cheap because anyone can do it. But the deeper parts then of intimacy, I think that's where it gets more interesting. Anyone can go out, just like the last speaker said, it's just transactional. But the more, that's why I'm saying the term and intimacy, although it's not universal through different cultures, it's not intimacy, but it's the same thing. It's closeness, it's being open, it takes time.
Mm.
So there's quite a number of elements. So my point being that the physical part, it's always there. It's cheap.
Okay.
It can be received by anybody and everybody.
Mm.
But when then you move to the next layer,
Mm.
that's where then you start then to deal with the nuance of everything
Okay.
else.
So it is possible for what normally starts like as a physical relationship to actually grow into something else, into something deeper, something more meaningful, or can it?
For men,
Can it develop?
I think for men, it's obviously it's always visual. I don't think you can be physically intimate with someone who's not appetizing. So, they have to look good first. They have to be appetizing to your eyes. That's why then you find them physically attractive and then be intimate with them. Then from there on, then you build a relationship, start investing your time and all other elements. Then it develops to something extra. But we as guys, I don't know, let me not generalize, but I don't think a guy will read a book and be aroused as opposed to a woman. A woman can read a book and be aroused. I think for guys, it's more the visual aspect of things. That's how you get arousal. And that's more like your physical intimacy aspect of it.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Brian. Itumeleng, your thoughts? Your thoughts on the physical, is it able to grow into something else? Or if you just met for the physical, maybe it can't develop further, or can it?
You know, certain things are not absolute. So I do believe that some things will tend to morph. I really believe that if you are two people whose intentions are real and you guys are pulling into to one direction, it
Mm.
could work for you guys. But most of the time, I think that just jumping into the physical aspect of it, like Mr. Golden just said now that it's cheap. I like the way you put it. It's very transactional. There's nothing that could be attached to it, but um, looking at the underlying factors of it, there's that spiritual connection that will always be attached to this person, and hence that's why I'd be very apprehensive to jumping into intimacy. I wouldn't advise people to just jump into that aspect of it of the physical, but rather let us do it on a mental plane. Let us understand each other spiritually. Are we aligned in terms of the future goals that we have? Our family values aligned? Do we foresee the same things for our future? And that's what I believe people should be more inclined to. But to answer your question, I believe that something can morph and can become great. But in this day and age, you tend to want to advise people to be very alert based off of how the world is today. You can't just really trust anybody, but that would just be my 2 cents on that.
Awesome. Okay, let me ask you something else. Can friendships lead to physical intimacy? Based on the fact that with friendships that we might have built over a period of time, we now know each other, we've connected even deeper. I think I know how you think. I know what your values are like. I think I know your mind. I understand how you think and etc. Can it move from just being a friendship and it lead to a physical intimacy?
I'd I'd like to
Anyway,
propose a thought on that, by the way.
okay.
For guys in general, okay, maybe not generalize. For me as a guy in general,
Mhm.
it's easier to lead to physical intimacy than it is to lead to connective intimacy where you're sharing things that you struggle with, where you're sharing problems that you deal with. So any question along the lines of can a friend, can an enemy, can a boss, can a coworker, can lead to physical intimacy? For me, the answer is much easier to say yes than, let's say, can a friend lead to an emotional connection where I share my problems with them or what I'm dealing with. So in terms of the physical intimacy, it's generally a lot easier because we can hate someone. We can genuinely despise a person on who they are, at least for me, and you can still be attracted to them and see yourself doing something with them on that plane. Even if you don't like them and you don't want to spend a lot of time around them, you can still do that because it's a bit more separate in, at least in my head. And I don't want to generalize like Itu said as well. It's there is a good point, but in general, it's a lot easier to lead into anything physical. But that's not the harder hurdle for us. The harder hurdle is the emotional side and the sharing our problems, sharing our daily struggles in life, which is a lot harder to actually kind of bring out of me. That's a lot harder because for various reasons.
Yeah, I believe you because I can safely tell you that as the female species, we normally assume, and I'm using the term assume deliberately because I'm hoping that in this platform we obviously are going to dispel some of these assumptions. So normally as girls, when we have these conversations, we'd be like, you know what, girls are actually very emotional. Men are not emotional at all. You know, it's almost like sending a message that between the two sexes, men are tough. They probably just date and they don't want closeness. They don't want that comfort. They don't want to be vulnerable because half the time maybe you guys are not as open to girls as maybe girls come across. Are you guys emotional? Do you think you are emotional, or do you suss out first where you are before you can allow yourself to be vulnerable, to be emotional, or it doesn't matter? You just feel like maybe you will be misunderstood if you were to be emotional. Pilani? Oh, Cam's hand is up, guys.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't raising. I was just brushing off my plate. No, I think every
Oh.
human being is emotional. How it's then displayed or perceived by the other party then becomes very important. And I think emotional intelligence also comes into effect, whereby you don't want to be vulnerable to a person, whereby that then can be used against you. So,
Exactly.
But wait. Why would we think it
Exactly.
will be used against you? Why? What kind of girls are you guys meeting?
No, but
All
remember,
of
it's not
them?
about, it's not the type of girl that you're meeting. I think that's how the world is with
Oh,
the social part and everything else.
okay.
We cannot predict the future. We can only live our life from the past. So with that being said, the point is emotional intelligence then come into place to say then how you regulate yourself, how that other person also perceives it, and how then they receive the information. It reminds me of that video, man, that was trending. The woman was like, if you want an emotional guy, as a woman, you must be ready because that guy can cut you out quickly. If you mess up with his space, if you do whatever, he's not going to take any nonsense that messes up his space. So I think guys are emotional. Maybe it's not more apparent to women as women would like it to be, but I think every human being is emotional. I think maybe it's supposed then to be said to women or shown because I think it becomes very difficult then. How then do you distinguish that women are more emotional than men? Is it some sort of affectionate word that's being said, or is it showing more emotions like crying, showing some form of your body whereby it displays a certain action? So it becomes very difficult then to say.
You raise a really actually good point there, Kavran. Like that's something I was wanting to touch on, but I was going to wait until someone else kind of did. I have more emotional conversations with my male friends about things that go on in their life than I do with, let's say, certain partners. And the reason being for that is I've had experiences where I will open up to certain people in general that I maybe shouldn't have. And this is where I got burned. And this is why I'm a lot more closed off in general. But you opened up about things that you're actually dealing with and things that you're piecing through, right? And then later on in your life, or in, like, let's say a conversation comes up and you're trying to have a discussion about something, and that exact topic which you, in a moment of kind of like vulnerability, you shared with that person, they use it
Mm.
and turn it around as a way to shut down conversation, or maybe shut down your point of view, gaslight, very interesting terms. And you learn very, very quickly that, at least for me and what I've experienced, that no one truly cares enough unless they're in a certain small circle of your
Mm.
friend group. So
Mm.
generally, the default de facto answer of any questions relating to how you're feeling, what are you going through, why is this, what is, no, it's all
Mm.
good, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. We're dealing with it, you know. But that's shifting a little bit of perspective on that. But that's kind of like an experience that I've had a lot, and a lot of my male friends have had that same kind of experience, because we were taught and were grown to be like, okay, no, just deal with it. And if you're dealing with something, don't cry about it, please. You know, just
Mm.
get it done
Mm. I actually
straight
wanted
up.
to, yeah, I actually wanted to say exactly the same thing, to say from basically from what we know, right, is that guys go through, and again, this is the generalization, that guys go through a lot of things and they do not share. And it's mainly because we are growing up with the stereotype that as a guy, like, men don't cry. You're just supposed to toughen it up and be well. But I'm just slightly concerned, Cam, when you're saying that you are having more conversations with Cameron. Cameron, I
Yes.
think I'm just gonna call Cameron Mr.
Yeah,
Baby.
Gabran. Yeah,
Ne?
it's Gabran.
I
Yeah,
think I'm going
Gabran.
to do that.
Just say K.
So,
Just say K. It's
so,
fine. Yeah.
oh, Cameron. Okay.
Yeah.
So as I was still responding
Mm,
to Cameron, to say that considering the fact that we understand that men have not been open to speak about issues,
mm,
because of how they were brought up, they were told and taught to be strong, men don't cry, type of thing, and
mm.
that very fact, Cameron, that you're saying you're having more conversations with your male friends, and you're having those emotional conversations. Obviously, then it doesn't allow us in. And I also feel like we
Mm,
can't be discouraged by the frogs that we meet in our lives,
mm,
and generalize and say, you know what, everybody is like that. Do you know what I mean? Because I can safely
mm.
tell you, there is women that I know for a fact that they would they that's exactly what they're searching for. They want a guy who's going to be open and honest and be vulnerable, and not just be a tough guy who doesn't look like they've got
Mm.
problems. And then the next day we wake up, someone has committed suicide. And when you ask the girl is like, me, I know nothing. This person has been just been withdrawn. I don't know what the issue has been. Itumeleng, I see you want to say something.
Yeah, like it's very interesting, but I want to put it to you that you
Yeah.
do know your own kind, right? If we're
Mm.
just talking at the dynamics of females, right? We
Sorry.
you just putting it out there that we know how females are, and as much as we'd say
But
we
you're
wouldn't want.
generalizing,
I'm not.
Itumeleng.
Look, I'm not generalizing, but
No.
if we just be honest about it, right?
Mm, mm, mm.
Like I don't wanna sound like I'm generalizing, but majority of the time you tend to use certain things against us. You know, even if it's not in a manner where you're trying to be spiteful, but we can still
Straight
feel
up.
it, we can still sense it, you know. And
Yeah.
I, I just feel that being vulnerable also at the
Mm.
same time for us as men, whether we grew up in terms of men don't cry, I just think that there are certain things that we would like to face ourselves. It's a masculine thing, and we
Also
don't
true.
want, because you know how females are. They'll get you into a point where you're feeling all sobby, and now you just you sometimes we just want to go to the gym, we want to work out, and we just want to beast out, you know, and take out all this frustration in a way that we can take it out. You know, if I'm dealing with something, I don't want to touch on the emotional side of things. I actually
Mm.
feel that there's another way that I can challenge it, and hence
Yeah.
that's why some things we just don't feel open about talking to females. Would rather talk to the
Okay.
gents about it because the gents would understand
Mm.
it. Or like you know, you go, you tell your friend that you're dealing with something. Sometimes it's that thing where you'd say, "Hey man, stop being beta." Take it
They
like a
won't
man
ask
because
why. They won't ask
yeah,
why
Yeah,
you're feeling
yeah.
the way you're feeling. You would just
yeah,
exist. You
yeah.
exist peacefully and you just do your thing and then
Mm.
you get life done.
But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
they just bring you back. They're like, you go off a tangent a bit, but they bring you back to reminding you that, hey man, this is the real world that we're facing.
Mm,
There's no time for that. And I guess
mm,
that's what majority of us actually want because we are all on a drive towards something greater. That's what we want. That's what makes us feel all alpha because that's what
mm,
we all want to get to. So touching on the vulnerability aspect of it,
mm,
yes, cool, but also
mm,
it's also
mm,
questionable
mm.
to say that as females is that really what you guys want? Do you guys really want a guy that's always going to be telling you the problems that he's facing? Oh, this person
Yeah.
did this today at work. I don't think so. But I don't-
I actually want to share a
A
story.
balance, Itumeleng, a balance.
Mm. I want to share a
Mamela,
story though.
sorry,
Okay, yeah,
Cameron,
Mamela.
before
Right,
you,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cameron, before
Mamela.
you share a story, ne, can I just respond? May I just respond to Itumeleng and just say, it's interesting because you guys experience women, right? Obviously because you're dating women. And unfortunately, on our side, we experience men because we're obviously
Mm,
dating men, right?
mm,
So it's
mm,
easy for you to say, you obviously are making that statement based on the relationships that maybe you might have gone through or that your
mm,
buddies have also gone through. And if say, for example, right now we had this conversation, and I hope it's going to happen sooner, right?
mm,
With both males and females, right?
mm,
I just feel like you would also appreciate the fact that Itumeleng might be open as he can be, right? As emotional as he can be, and etc. But there's also gentlemen that literally don't open up for nothing. And at that point, you find that that person is actually dating somebody with emotional intelligence, somebody basically who is open to building, right? But because when you've dated, or some of us have dated the wrong kind of frogs, right? So
mm,
now our image of the opposite sex remains skewed because now it's like,
mm,
no, men just want sexy. They don't want guys who will be honest, yeah, and etc.
mm,
So I'm just saying that it's not necessarily us generalizing. It's
mm,
also a case whereby at the moment we are speaking from our own experiences, but it's also important to note that not all the gentlemen are like, some of them
mm,
won't even take. You see, you would say you go to your gents and you're like, yo guys, this is what I'm going through and whatever, but not everybody does that. In fact, the fact that there's a lot of guys that kill themselves out of frustration, out of situations because they have nobody to talk to.
mm,
It's also very telling. Do you understand? And not everybody has got building relationships. And I'm saying building relationships in terms of people that you can go. When you know your friends that, you know what, if I go to Itumeling is going to dissect the issue, and then at the end of the day, we'll find a proper solution. But not all our friends do that. You will go running to the friend and you're like, oh no, my girlfriend has done whatever. Like, let's go drink. Tomorrow it will
mm,
be a better day. You know what I mean? So I think the point that I'm trying to make is that um, we can't generalize, and I also should not generalize that all
mm,
men. And that is why I'm happy that we have this conversation, because as it is, shockingly, I've just learned that so guys are able to be emotional about things. They're able to also, they get hurt and don't just go to the gym to work it out, but they will also talk to their friends. So
mm.
that for me is, yeah, eye-opening. Cameron?
No,
I
I
wanted,
get it.
yeah.
I think it's
You are Mr. Golding. You are Mr. Golding, please.
So,
oh,
Mr.
Cameron.
Golding.
Sorry, guys.
Cameron.
we
Yeah.
keep I mean we keep confusing each other, but we share the same story, I guess, to a degree.
No doubt.
So I wanted to touch on, you mentioned suicide rates and depression with men
Yeah.
on why they commit suicide. Circa 2015, a study was done in both the UK and I think, most of the United Nations by Yale and Oxford on why certain men commit suicide, the reasons for suicide. The top three reasons were unemployment, finances, and divorce, divorce being the higher rated one of them. Most of the time, when we're experiencing heavy issues of that kind and we don't have a solid base of people that we can talk to, sharing with our respective partners becomes similar to a landmine field. Remember, when we were touching on the subject of physical intimacy, can a friendship lead to physical intimacy? And we said, yes, it's much easier for that to
Easy.
happen, but
Sure.
the emotional intimacy and the emotional connection is a lot harder, not because it's impossible or because we can't open up, but because there is a level of trust that breaks over time, that you learn once burned, twice shy. There's different kind of perspectives on what, at least this is what I've discovered for myself, men and women kind of like value what is harder to obtain from the either sex. Because how we approach it is a little bit differently from every lady that I've spoken to. The emotional connection and who you are has to be established first before the
Yes.
physical, 9 times out of 10. And for guys, before the emotional side is established, the trustworthiness of who you're with. If you share something with them, will they turn it against you? Do they turn it against them out? What are their parents like? Like, if you tell them something like, "Hey, I struggle with drinking when I'm depressed," and you have a conversation later, will they turn it around and say like, "This is why you're always depressed and drinking all the time," when they're trying to win an argument, which is actually something I've heard. I listened to that conversation happen next to me. Friend of mine struggled with alcoholism for about 7 years, and then he gave it up. And then he shared that particular vice with his then partner of about 1.5 years. Later on, in a public setting, not private one, public setting, when they were discussing it. And the person seems nice enough, but tensions rose. They were arguing about tipping and the price for that, something stupid. And then she said that just offhandedly, kind of like a teasing joke. This is why you're going to do that. And that thing, even if it's said like as a joke or offhandedly or passing, because he had shared something very personal to himself about it, and she just turned it in such a flippant way, you burn once and then you're like, okay, I can't trust that, and I need to kind of validate who I'm talking to before I share something that personal, because they ended up breaking up about 3 months later over the exact issue, because he felt like she didn't value what he was saying and the expense of it as well, because it's an expensive thing to just say if you're in a relationship. So I wanted to just touch on that and share that story, but uh, bring that perspective in a little bit.
Has it said really, and unfortunately, it's not Battle of the Sexes now, but
No, it's
I
not,
just
not at
don't
all.
I don't want to lie and tell you that women don't experience that as well. In my personal capacity, I've actually experienced something similar to that, which doesn't make sense, and obviously it doesn't encourage you to open up. And these are some of the stumbling blocks that we come across, and they affect us relationshiping going forward, when we actually know that possibly the right way to do it is to open up, get somebody that you can be most vulnerable when you're winning, when you're losing. This person needs to be part of everything. And guys, and other gents, have you gone through situations whereby you've opened up and it backfired, basically? James?
For me, I don't think so. But as the
Lucky.
yeah, as the other speakers mentioned, so me and my friends, we do share things together when we're going through tough time and all of that. But moreover than that, I also do share a lot of things with my wife, and she's very supportive and all of that. So I haven't I haven't had anything being used against me, and it's just important to have the right sort of like people to open up to, and just know when to and when not to, and that depends on your level of comfort with the people. Yeah.
Yeah. Itu?
Yeah, yeah, it has backfired before, several times actually, and it's might just backfire in the future, but it's okay. it's okay because I know where I stand. I know how things are going to be, and I know how human beings tend to be. Can't really hold you hostage for certain things that you would do without even realizing what you are doing. So I think I'm at peace with it. I just wanna probably touch on the suicidal part of it since it was something that was spoken about.
Yeah.
It's it's it really is unfortunate, you know, and we find ourselves always.
Okay, wait.
Yeah, his mic went off.
Is it? Oh, okay. Is it just me?
No,
We
can
can't
hear
hear
you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Itumeleng, try to speak.
Yes, I'm back. I'm here.
We can hear you
Welcome
now.
back.
So, I was saying that we tend to think that this person might have wanted to speak out or share something that was weighing heavy on their heart, but we don't really know to a certain extent what people deal with to
Mm,
commit suicide or decide to end their lives. You know,
mm.
talk and people
Ish.
do have a platform and they've got families and they've got friends, you know. Some
Mm.
still end up taking their lives because there's a certain fulfillment that they don't get, you know. And I actually like this topic in terms of intimacy. We won't look at it in terms of intimacy beyond physical touch, but I think intimacy should start with you. Once you're intimate with yourself and you actually understand yourself and you understand ways you go to, how you deal with certain things, what actually satisfies you as a human being, and where you find your peace. I think most ultimately you will actually end up thriving in life. You know, majority of us go outside looking for external things to satisfy us, whereby the things that would actually make us whole and peaceful are just internal, and we just need to look inwards. Hence, that's why intimacy, spending time with yourself first. Spend time with yourself, 30 minutes, sit in silence, do nothing, understand what is going on with you, understand what's going on around you, you know, and maybe that might be something that could actually curb around the whole suicide rate that we are facing in society today. You know, it is an unfortunate situation that we're facing with a whole lot of men who are depressed. But you live in a era where there's social media, social pressures of Instagram, Twitter, where you've got negative people who just speak their mind without even realizing the repercussions of how they're impacting the next person. So I think that the most important thing for people is to actually just spend time with themselves and understand what really makes them. You know, if I could ask the gents on this platform who they are, they probably majority of them will probably just take a minute and just try think about it first. But it's a very in-depth question, a very, very
Yeah.
in-depth question, and it's not a question that I can even answer myself. But pretty much, yeah, that's just what we are facing in terms of just suicide. I think people need to be more intimate with themselves.
Spot on,
Where,
Idu,
yeah.
because it's important. Sorry, Cameron. It's also important for you to know what you want out of other people, to know who you are, what you want, what makes you happy. Because someone's child is going to come into your life and they will forever be trying to figure you out because even you don't know yourself. One minute you are red, the next minute you're green, like it's basically just conflicting. So it's an important ask to say be intimate with yourself first so that you know what you project, what you also want from the other people that are dealing with. Because it's easy to then turn around and say, you know what, I'm not finding a partner, and only to find that actually the problem starts here, home.
Yeah,
You
you're
know,
the common denominator.
you are the common denominator. Cameron, you wanted to say something?
I was just bouncing off comments based on what was being said, nothing serious.
Okay, Mr. Golding. I think
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
easier when you call him Mr. Golding. Your thoughts
Sounds better.
about what's being said?
Yeah, I do concur with Itumeleng, man. That self-regulation, it's very important. I was also speaking to my cousin about this topic, man, and I think and also consulted various other people, and I think there was a common thread, a signature emerged, to say, you must take time with yourself, love yourself, know who you are, what you want, do less self-destructive activities. When you know what you want, it's much more easier then to be intimate with someone, because then you be in a position then to say, no, A, B, and C doesn't go with me. A, B, and C goes with me. So self-regulation. I think self-regulation is very important. On the suicidal part, man, I think men in general, man, are going through a lot in modern day times, given a lot of things. I think Cameron said, what was it? Divorce, finances,
Financial
employment.
employment.
When we look at these streets with these three elements, and then we try to understand what it's saying, we're living in a modern day world now, where things are not the same as they are in the past. There was an interesting study that I actually read to say, you know what, women now who are more upper in status are actually dating down, because economics, or the economics of the way the world used to be, has been twisted. More men are not working, there's not opportunities, and then everything else. So women always look for guys who are more advanced and everything else, and it's a small bunch of men, to be honest, in this day and world. That's why you even find out that most men these days are not dating. People are not physical with anyone. Men don't have friends. I was even watching this other podcast. I think one also important thing, man, with intimacy, it's actually friendship. If you can be able to have friends that you sustain throughout your life, you'll be in a better position, because your kids, as they grow, they move away from you, your parents and everyone else. But if you've got a consistent line of friends, which you can go to from time to time, which then goes back to emotional intelligence, to say then you are able then to use your emotions and regulate them. And then these people, as you move along with them, you'll be better off in life. So I think guys need to have more friends. Let's go out, leave your place. I even think Trevor Noah was saying on the other podcast, man, if you feel terrible, right? Before you take your life, go outside, take a walk, go to a place where there's a lot of people, do an activity that brings you joy. Then see after that if you still want to continue with what you want to do. So I think, platforms like this are good, whereby we can share ideas. Men can also be able to speak and let our voice be heard. But I think as guys, we just need to go out more, see the rest of the world. Working from home now, it's even terrible for other people, because you don't interact with other human beings. But human activity and interacting with other human beings, I think, is very important. So the point I'm driving home is have friends, interact with people, and then self-regulate from time to time. Because it also goes back to that point to say, no, I've got my own circle, or I can do my own thing, which is a lie. There's no one ever in this world who has built anything great and they did it on themselves.
On their own. Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Golding. Philani, can I just bring you in here? I want to go back to these questions that I'm asking about intimacy, right? Can intimacy be experienced with more than one partner at the same time? You see, I'm trying to understand, how does it happen that you end up with not just one partner, but like I said, it's a safe space. Just hypothesize if you must, right? Philani, I'm starting with you.
Personally, for me, I don't think so. But the reality is that there are people who are trying to sort of force that. I mean, I myself don't have the capacity to have fully intimate relationships with two people. Like, I can just dedicate to one person, and then to a certain extent, then my friends and all of that. But fully one person, all out, physical, anything, everything, and then to other people, less, so to say. So I'll characterize it like that, and maintaining it is just a lot of admin for me.
Okay. And then have you guys seen it happening around? Because maybe I'm going to get honest answers when I steer this conversation in your knowledge of situations and not necessarily just you. Yabo. So
Mm.
I feel like maybe if we put it that way, because the reality is that we know that people get into intimate relationships with more than one people, you know?
Yeah.
So I wanted to handle it from that
So
perspective as well.
so I don't know how they handle it from that perspective, honestly.
Mm.
To be all the way physically and all of that, I do not know, but it seems like it's possible and
Yeah,
they can do it, but I don't
yeah,
know how.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cameron?
Ooh. Okay. When you say intimacy, do you only mean physical?
No.
When you say it,
Okay,
then
let
no.
me put it this
Then
way.
no. Definitely not
Uh,
no.
Yeah, because you find people that have got maybe two relationships that are ongoing, maybe for
Mm.
like 2 years or something like that,
Mm.
right? Um, and they are able to be a partner to the next
Mm.
person for a sizable amount of time. So that's why I'm asking, Uti, is it really possible for people to experience intimacy with more than one person at the same time?
I haven't seen it. The only thing I have seen is a mate of mine who has a few different people that they sleep with, but only one of them they feel like an actual connection with that they can talk about things,
Mhm.
kind of separating physical intimacy from the rest. Because it,
Mm.
again, you could sleep with someone you hate if they
Mm.
have a great enough attraction, to say another word. But personally, I can't
Yeah,
do that, and I haven't met anyone that can do full intimacy in terms of like sharing their innermost self in
yeah,
everything with more than one person. I haven't seen it. If it
yeah.
is possible, I haven't seen it. But possible to have physical relations with men and not get, yeah, I have seen
That's
plenty of that.
possible. Okay.
Mm.
Itumeleng?
No. The long and short of it, no, you can't. It's not possible. Looking at other people's experiences, they've tried, it hasn't worked. And the only reason why it hasn't worked is because there's too much focus that goes into intimacy. You can't you can't be focused on one thing here and then try to accommodate the same thing with another person, individual, I'd say. So no, it just doesn't work. I wouldn't
But
advise anybody to do it.
yeah,
Mm.
okay. Um, I think my thing is the fact that I know it's happening. I know that these are things that are happening in the real world, right? So maybe my connecting question would be, or in fact, just a statement to say, isn't it maybe possible that people are able to um, maybe when you date girl A, from girl A makes you feel, I don't know, maybe respected. You are able to share like you're able to be vulnerable. You're able to, I don't know, like share basically everything and be okay. But then you've got girl B. Girl B maybe is more physical, and maybe you connect with her on a spiritual level, on a more spiritual level, right? So the point I'm trying to make is I'm trying to understand how is it possible for people to stay in maybe two relationships at the same time, but also adding the fact that there is the polygamy and polyandry phenomenon as well, that how do those people manage them? You know, how the guy who says no, one wife is not enough, I want three, for example. How do they then manage based on your understanding, maybe as just a guy?
Can I take this?
Sure, please do.
Go for it.
Well, uh, I still stand by my stance. It doesn't work. It's a fugazi. If you think that it does
Mm.
exist, then it's happening in this day and age. It doesn't. You know, the truth of it all is that you'd rather be with one person and spend time with that person, understanding that person,
Mm.
because
Mm.
you'll forever be confused. And there's nothing more that sucks than being an individual that's confused, because to a
Mm.
certain
Mm.
extent,
Mm.
it's
Mm.
going to spill out and people will see it, or it's going to
Mm.
get you in a position where you're going to mess up to a certain extent, and
Mm,
I also believe that I believe in the laws of the universe. You know, for every action, there's an equal and
There's
opposite
an equal
reaction.
reaction. Yeah.
So let's not try to try break the law. The law is the law, and it
Yeah,
sticks. You know, so if
exactly.
if you're gonna hurt people, and bear in mind when we're talking about being intimate with two individuals, we are going to assume that both these females wouldn't know that this guy Itumeleng is busy with the one here and is busy with another one
Mm,
here, right? There's
mm,
some form of secretiveness to it,
yeah,
right? So
generally.
it just doesn't work. It's more fugazi. And if we're gonna
Mm,
speak about more on the polygamy
Polygamy.
and the
mm,
other one that you just mentioned,
Polyandry.
I don't believe in polyandry, but if you're going to say it,
No, I
it's
wouldn't be able to
fine.
say
nah,
polyandry.
nah, fam.
So,
Nah.
like, even if you think about it, look at men
Yeah.
who are married to more than one woman.
Yeah.
They all confuse themselves. Like
Mm,
I'm baffled. They're like, yeah, cool.
mm,
You've got two wives, you've got three wives, but deep down inside,
Yeah.
I can guarantee you
mm,
that man is crying inside. You know, of course, maybe he's got
Mm.
the money and he can escape and do what he needs to do. But the
Yeah.
fact of it
mm,
all is that you will not be able to accommodate all of the women that you have in your life, you know. And
mm,
to a
Mm.
certain extent, that is still going to be hampering on somebody else's
mm,
feelings, you know. And I think that
Mm.
we just need to be cognizant that we are people and we are living in this world. Don't do something that you wouldn't want another person to do to you. You know,
Mm.
it's just in all fairness that we should apply those, you know. But the fact that you've got more than one woman, or
Mm.
you're married to more than one woman, like
Mm.
you can act like you're all good and everything is fine in,
mm,
in your life. But the reality of it all is that you probably are crying inside and frustrated because this one
mm.
woman wants something, the other woman wants something, the other woman is complaining about something. But besides that, you got the kids. Now you're dealing with the kids, and now you're dealing with three families. Like, nah, why would you want to do that?
But
It just doesn't make sense.
why is the polygamy phenomenon spreading? Because I can
Be-
tell you, it's shocking to see how it's literally just multiplying.
I
because our
would.
view of sex is different. Sorry, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right, Cam. But
Our view of sex is different. Our view of intimacy is different.
true.
Ultimately, like, as remember when I said we can see someone who we hate, we despise who they are, we don't talk to them, we don't relate to them, but if they have a 10 out of 10 body, we will have no problem sleeping with them and being like, yeah, 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 yeah. And I know quite a few people who do that. There's
Mm.
only ever one person that you can truly be like yourself around. And I know a couple people personally, I don't do this, but I know
Mm.
of some of my friends who have done and do this. In fact, I know one who is for polygamy, but when I asked him, I drilled him, I said, okay, so where's the connection? Who are you connected to? And he said, honestly, I'm connected to this one the most, but that one is connected to this one, and I'm not connected to this one as much. I talk to that one more. I'm like, so one is your actual
Mm.
partner, and the other one is a person you sleep with.
Mm.
It's not two partners. You have one partner and this person you're sleeping with, and it's you guys are okay with it. But I mean, that's what's happening. It's what E2 says is 100% true. If you try and find a way to split your mind
Mm.
and emotions and all of that between two people, you're going to end up crying and confused because it doesn't, or at least personally, doesn't work that way.
Mm.
But we view sex
Yeah.
differently. Sex, separate the two in your mind when it comes to most guys. Separate sex from like partner. Separate it. When
But
most guys separate the two.
yeah, but it's easy to say because realistically speaking, you've got women that are putting out sex with the hope that they will hook you, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because and I'm I don't want to say this abnormal women. So I'm
Yeah.
going to say
Yeah.
for a normal woman, they would
Mm,
think,
mm,
I
mm,
want to get to know you. I want to spend time with
mm,
you. I want to know your fears. I want to know, like, I
mm,
want to build with you. I want to build us into this couple goals vibe,
mm,
etc. But unfortunately, men would, or certain men would
yeah.
make sex be number one, the decider. And yeah, and I think it also gets frustrating because now it comes across as if as if men values sex more than anything. Like you start a conversation, you start having conversations with a person, with a guy, and in a short space of time, guy is frustrated because you're not putting out, you know. And you're like, but I'm still trying to get to know you. I still want to, know the type of person that you are, know how you think, see how you react to situations and etc. And then you become the bad person and guy literally just walks away. You know what I mean? So I think at the end of the day, we've got a certain image as women about men. And if it were for us, and I'm saying us normal women, men would open up and not make, look, we love sex, but don't make the relationship solely about, or if we get that part right, then everything else will be okay. I feel like men should also be open to say, I want a meaningful relationship. Well, you don't want a meaningful relationship. Maybe just be upfront and say, you know what, damn, body banging, so that I want this, but in it, so that this person you're speaking to, this girl, does not think, yeah, no, if I sleep with him, there is a future. To your point, Cameron, the sex, the physical, and the other intimacies, some men are able to separate them and go strictly for the physical. And unfortunately, sometimes they go into those situations with girls that maybe want the other kind of intimacy, of course, coupled with the physical as well.
I would recommend that if the kind of person that you're meeting with upfront, the foremost thing on their mind is physical, and that's their barrier of entry to entering a relationship, then it's not the kind of person that you would want. I believe Mr. Cabran and Itu both said it. You have to, as a guy in general, you have to spend time knowing yourself, knowing about yourself, and finding your own peace and your own kind of like
Yeah.
way around things. And generally, if you meet a person that hasn't spent time thinking about values in life and what they do or what they want to do, their priorities and that kind of thing, the only thing that goes on their mind is the hormonal side, the reactionary side, because guys do have, I think, it's something close to 6 to 7 times more hormones than women. In fact, pound for pound, men have both more testosterone and estrogen, but the percentages are flipped with women. But men actually have more estrogen produced than women. We just have way more testosterone, which is why the percentages we have more, but we actually produce more of both than women do. That affects our sexual drive and that kind of thing a lot more. So it's a lot more on the mind. And if you as a guy have not spent time like finding your values and like, okay, what do I value? Like, who am I? This whole thing of building yourself, as they both touched on, very, very important. You have to do that. If the kind of guy you're meeting hasn't gone through that process, then in the forefront, their barrier of entry will be sex. And then it shouldn't be for you. If you want the other side, then you have to kind of like have that boundary, like, no, we're not going to do that until we've had the emotional connection. And that will filter out a lot of the kind of issues that you're going to discover with people who only want sex. Because if you say no, this is my boundary, this is my barrier to entry. If you want to have anything close to that, we need to have this first. That'll filter out a lot of the nonsense. That's just general advice that I give a lot of my female friends. I say, if the guy's focused on this, then he's not the kind of guy you want to be with, because that will be the focus of the relationship. And if you filter him out and he seems nice, you're gonna have to take it on the chin, because you don't want a kind of person like that. Even if they seem nice on paper and they talk and they make you laugh, if they themselves are not with you, then it's not the kind of guy you want to associate with anyway as a partner. But that's just opinion. That's just opinion.
Just to add on that,
Pilani,
right?
oh,
Sorry.
sorry. It's Melan, you wanted to go first. Yeah.
I just wanted to add to, sorry, and then Pilani can come in. Just word of advice to the females that are listening. If a man is solely about sex, run away. It really takes a wise man to put that aside and see that there's actually more to this act, And basically, it takes a real man to actually understand the essence of sex. It's not just playing around. There's more deeper things to that. And if you can get a man that is able to explain that to you and will tell you that I'm not in a rush to get there, I think you should hold on to that man and understand which direction he's going, because his head is in the right place. But any man can do can do the deed, you know. But I think it's actually good for
Correct.
women to put it aside, you know. They hate the 90-day rule. Quite
Mm.
frankly, I think that
They
is put there in place to actually safeguard
save
a whole lot of
women.
people from drowning in so much pain that they won't even realize that they jumping into, you know. So I
Mm.
just wanted to add that. But yeah, go ahead.
Awesome.
Suppose.
Philani?
Oh, yeah, I was about to add on to what they said. I think earlier on they mentioned that sex is cheap in a way. It's cheap to get sex. So if a guy is comes with that and he's denied that, chances are he'll probably move to the next person, right? Because it's not even emotionally attached to you, because
Involved.
that's only once, right? And to echo what Cameron says, yeah, if a guy starts like that, then yeah, tell them to leave. And you'd rather build with someone who's there with you emotionally and intimate in any other levels than just focusing on one thing, which is sex. Yeah.
So now, Philani, we are conditioned, I'm saying we as women, we are conditioned that men want sex. So now in a situation where you tell the guy to wait and he actually agrees, does it mean, and also on the fact that we've spoken about the high testosterone and whatnot, when he waits, does it mean that he will be getting the sex from somewhere else? Or no, he will just wait in prayer?
So it takes some real self-control, if you have to, when you're waiting as a man,
Yeah.
but when you're waiting for the right reasons, right? And while you're waiting, whatever you're thinking about shouldn't be that, okay, I'm just waiting, I'm counting down to sex, right? You're waiting because you're building intimate levels with your partner, right? And if a guy is really not into you, right, they won't
They
mind
won't
just
want to
going
wait.
elsewhere and fake waiting, where else they are
Mm,
going to the next person where they can only get physical intimacy, right?
mm,
And then you'll be left in the dark alone, which is that. And it's so unfortunate that it comes to that situation, because I feel like as modern day age, things have just become so transactional. We know that, okay, you give sex, you get money, or you get this per month, and in return of sex, and all of that. So now all of those things now become very transactionalized, and
mm,
the moment you get denied one place, you move to the next person. Right? It's all about who can
mm,
give you the highest. Right? If someone tells you to wait, find an easier route. So unfortunately, that's not what we want. Right? That's not what we aspire to. And if someone really is into you, they will wait and work on themselves to be more intimate with you in all other levels.
Mr. Golding, your take?
Yeah, my take, man, going back to polygamy and everything else, maybe monogamy. I think, everyone's experience is different. I'm a Muslim myself. You can marry multiple women. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be one of those people who does that. But I know guys who do it. As to whether they are spreading themselves too much, I don't know. Maybe the woman would be in a more advantageous position to tell us how the relationship is. Because I think within religion and cultural stuff, those activities or that type of transaction has always happened. So I think I submit them differently to the rest of the guys. I think if you want to have multiple wives and you can handle it, it's up to you. As opposed to, seeing something on the street, wanting to go for it, rather than, say, okay, I like that woman, I want to make her my second wife, go for it. Third wife, fourth wife, as long as you can afford them. I think do it. As long as you don't go out there with an ill intent, busy sleeping around and everything else. If you bring it closer to home, it's up to you, because we're all not the same. I think that 8 billion people in the world, our experiences cannot be the same.
It's
So
interesting.
Yeah,
Sorry, Mr. Golding, it's interesting how you say if you can afford them.
yeah,
So it's almost like now we are putting our feelings aside, but the main thing now becomes about, oh no, I'm rich, I can afford, so I will get many, because in any case, chances are in your community or society, especially men, they tend to clap hands, or in public, that's what we think, that the more ladies that you have, like being a ladies' man, they will get you respected by the community. You know what I mean? Like, for example, if I, as a woman, was to do exactly the same thing, then society would be like, oh no, that one is a whatever, right? But for a guy, it's like, ah, my guy, like type of thing. Well done, my
yeah, but
guy. You also
yeah,
with that one, you
no,
know?
but that's how the world is. There's double standards in everything.
That's
I think there's double standards in everything. Just
yes.
like when, let's say, I would sleep with a 16-year-old, the world would judge me harshly. If you were sleeps with a 16-year-old guy, you won't get the same harsh judgment or punishment as me. So I
They
think the world would
do.
always have double standards.
Yeah.
But maybe to qualify that point, to say as many as you can afford. We know this day and age, kids are expensive. The
Hmm.
cost that's associated with everything. So you would then not want to take on multiple partners and
If you
bring
can
them
afford
misery.
it.
Yeah, and bring them misery, and you can't even take care of your kids. The
Hmm.
budget but much. So that's why I'm saying economically, you must be in a sound place so that the transaction or whatever it is that you're trying to do with your life, then it makes the kids' life easier, the wife's life easier, and everything else. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. And with human beings, also another thing is, as we live as men, like you're saying, you're a woman and everything else. I think certain roles have been specifically put there for a reason. Just like what's the other one called, poly, where woman has multiple men.
Polyandry.
Polyandry.
Polyandry, yeah.
Polyamory. Yeah.
I'm just baffled
Polyandry.
by that idea. How do you even know who's the father? You see, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes, women and
Oh,
men different roles, and they are there for a reason, because certain things, you see, when we go into the world and we want to compare the species, to say no, men can do this, women can do this, like, no, no, I can also do it, I can also do it. It
yeah,
becomes
it's
a
not
very
fair.
dangerous terrain. We've always had
Absolutely.
roles and responsibility, we've always had cultures,
Yeah.
religion. If we try to decode all those things, then
Yeah.
we don't know how we would live. So I
Yeah.
think then we must train very carefully, then, as to say how then we move forward.
Just so you know, Mr. Golding, Cameron, I'm noting you. Personally, I wouldn't even know where to start with polyandry. I'm an emotional human being, so I think I love deeply, and I focus on one person. Having to do other things with other people. I don't, and also the thing about me is I also value my time. You know what I mean? Like me time. So if I were to be in a polyandric relationship, like I'm sure I will just die first day, because
Mm.
it will mean now I must have a schedule. When am I seeing who, what time? My world will shut, like I would not be able to do it. But yeah, we are not the same. Cameron, are you stuck? Are you okay?
No, not at all.
Or
I
is
was
it my
thinking.
connection?
Oh, no, no, no. My
Or you
camera
here?
may
Okay.
have my
Cameron,
camera may
you
have.
can go.
There we go.
I think we're about to wrap up.
I
Yeah,
wanted
but you
I'm
can.
gonna leave the polyamory side alone because that is a deep dark hole, but it's a great discussion topic. Maybe that should be like a whole thing. But I
Yeah.
wanted to touch on something you mentioned earlier that maybe add a little bit of clarification. I don't condone it or support it, but maybe this might, from a different perspective, why it is commended when, in general, a guy can pull more women, and why it is condoned where women
Have multiple.
supply, demand, and the amount of attraction. The average lady, we'll use Tinder as an example. The average lady, no matter size, weight, gender, height, what goes on in the life, will receive between 700 to 800 matches with a gentleman. The average gentleman with the same stats will receive between 1 and 0 over the same period. The barrier of entry for sexual access for men is a lot lower than it is for ladies in general because we view sex differently. And as a result, it is a lot harder for a gentleman because we have to connect in order to have some sort of sexual access to a lady. You have to connect with them emotionally. You have to have common interests. You do have to build an emotional connection. Very, very, very rarely have I seen or heard of any ladies that are purely animalistically sexual. Very, very rarely. 9 times out of 10, most of the time, you have to establish common ground, connection. What are their interests? What are their not interests? Are they okay? Are you a decent person? Whereas with guys, it's, oh, you look attractive. Cool. And we're ready. The stats on Tinder and on any other dating site reflect that in society as well, where about 2 to 5% of most men within a certain bracket of standard of elevation, certain job types, certain appearances, certain looks, will receive a majority of the attraction and levels, whereas up to 80% of women will receive broad from every person that they match with. They will receive a match rate of about 90%. So the reason it's commended from men is because it's much harder. And the reason it's less commended when it comes to ladies, it's because it's a lot easier in general, because you can literally go to a bar as a lady. If you go to a bar and you chat to 2 single guys, 9 times out of 10, both of them would be keen to sleep with you. Whereas if you're a guy in a bar with 10 ladies, your chance of survival rating much lower. Now, I don't commend it, but that kind of has a perspective as to why it's viewed that way, at least from a
I
supply and
think
demand point of view.
Yeah, I think that's actually even a topic for another day because these days women are so liberal. Like they understand or they think they understand when they said you can like there's 50-50 and all that. But it's just like I said, it's a story for another day. I personally I don't think it's possible. But that's just my personal view. I'm made to understand, Guti Pilani, you have to leave now at 15:30. So before
Yes.
you leave, just maybe tell us, Uguti, did you find the conversation useful in your life in also understanding how other men think? And do you think this conversation has been useful as well to women that might have been watching this podcast?
Yeah, yes, definitely has been very useful. To get some thoughts on the topic from different people with different backgrounds, as well as from the women's side of view, because often we don't see it that often as guys. And I'm hoping that it really sparks more engagement and thinking about it of this meeting.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pilani. Guys, I'm going to let Pilani go. Can we just say bye to Pilani? Thank you so
Bye,
much for
Pilani.
joining us,
Bye-bye,
and
guys.
we
Really
appreciate
enjoyed.
your insight. Thank you for the contribution. We hope at some point we're going to have like the session with these guys here, but also including women, so that,
Ooh, that'd be fun.
I feel like
Sounds
that would be
good.
awesome. Thank you so much, Pilani.
Bye-bye.
Itumeleng,
Yes.
your maybe respond to the same question that I've just asked Pilani. Did you find the conversation worth it? Was there lots to learn and etc.?
Okay, yes. I'll answer it, right? But just a curveball, right?
No.
There was a question, right, in terms of I mentioned that I'm not looking for sex, just trying to explore and the question that you posed in terms of men getting it elsewhere, right? To you females then, or females who are watching on the podcast. So what? What if the man is getting it elsewhere? Like, how does it affect the journey that you are taking? Remember, you are heading somewhere. You are trying to explore and see something. So, I mean, like, it feels like there's this element of control that you want to have in terms of what if he's getting it somewhere else? And so if he is getting it elsewhere, uh, is that a problem?
It
Shouldn't he be
is.
doing it?
It is, Itumeleng, because if you were to tell me that you're getting it somewhere else, right? I would then naturally just think ukuthi, so I'm going to date a person who, if I don't put out, he will be able to go somewhere else. And I'm saying this because I feel like maybe if we're being honest when we get into relationships, like for example, I have a view on the issue of polygamy, that if I meet you, Itumeleng, and you say to me, Miss B, I want to be with you and I want us to build, I love you, hey, wara wara, right? Tell me from an onset that I know that you believe in polygamy. You know what I mean? So that I have a choice whether to come into this relationship with you. So I'm saying this because it's important for me to know that you want me, and it is me only that you want. But immediately I start thinking that you've got chances that you are also doing the hanky-panky with other people whilst you are saying you're waiting for me. Then it means in my relationship, in our relationship, I'm forever going to feel like I must always give it. Because if I can't, for whatever reason, I'm having a baby, I'm PMSing, whatever, then I must sit and be worried that, oh, so it means he's actually going to get it somewhere else, But yeah.
I get you, and I'll probably put it to you this way. There's very little that we've got control over in life, especially with the next person. The next person will do what they want to do, whether you know, whether you don't know. It's
Yeah.
just something that people tend to go into, But I think that with certain journeys in life, you just need to believe and you need to understand that you're comfortable with flying to wherever in the world. You don't go and knock on the cockpit and say you want to see where the pilot is taking you. Certain instances, you just have to sit down, relax, and believe that you're going to arrive at your destination at some point, And hence, that's why this control aspect, there's so much, and I don't want to generalize again, but there's so much control that we want to put in as individuals. And the
Yeah.
reality of it all is that we've got zero control over the things that
Yeah.
happen in our lives. We just have to be easy and let things be, So if you are going to be with somebody and somebody's going to tell you that, look, I'm not really interested in doing the deed right now. I just am focusing on work and establishing myself and trying to build a
Must
family
just believe.
and heading in that.
Yeah.
Just understand that this person allowed you, has allowed you in their space. It's your choice whether you're going to believe him or not believe him. But the truth is, if you're going to go that direction and explore it, what is for you will be exposed. And if this person is not for you, those red flags will appear. And once those red flags appear, take them for what they are. They really are red flags.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Golding. Anything from your end as we wrap up? Have you learned anything? Do you think it was?
Oh, yeah, I think the topic was actually quite interesting, but I think we just scratched the surface, man.
You wanted more?
I think it's much more deeper, man. We didn't even speak about the intellectual, intimacy
no.
things.
Spiritual.
Yeah, so it's multi-layered. It was very insightful though. I do enjoy the topic. I think a part two then will be overdue to
4, 5,
continue
and 6.
go deeper into the details or everything else. But also just to touch on what Dumeleng was saying, man. Yeah, I think human beings like controlling people too much. There must be people I can hear. You too, Miss Bhoza, to say no. There's always that element. I feel like you'll always get it from somewhere. I think people also mustn't instill their insecurities into other people.
Into other people, true.
I think if you are secured with your partner and secured with yourself, you shouldn't be worried about what the person might do or could do. Focus on yourself, focus on relationship. That's what I'm saying. And if you stipulate from the onset, this is how I am, this is what I can take, this is what I cannot take. Shouldn't then be worried what he's doing and whatever. That's what I'm saying. Also, monogamy, man, in this day and age, man, it becomes very difficult, especially I don't want to say when women are easy, but when sex has become
easy.
Yeah,
when sex is easy.
Sex easy. I don't want to say women are easy. When sex has become so easy, that's something. It's much more harder than to be faithful. Everything else. That's what I'm saying. Sex is cheap, man. Physical intimacy is cheap. anyone can get it. As long as it's
Mm.
appealing to you, you can receive it.
Mm.
Can I add a
Awesome.
swing to that, by the
Cam?
way? A swing to that perspective, by the way.
Cam?
Right. So know who you are talking to. If what you want is a certain kind of person, like if you want a person who will do the things that you are wanting, for instance, that they are going to stick by you, all of these things that they're not going to have the desire to flirt around, then your expectation of who that kind of person is in this day and age needs to be realistic.
Mm.
90% of the time, the most loyal people are the people that most women will not give two thoughts of.
Mm.
The garbage guy who does minimal work for eight or seven a month, the gentleman who works behind the bar, the kind of people that you look for, that you're wanting this expectation of loyalty for, they don't need to, so they won't, right?
Sure.
The kind of people that most of the ladies that I've talked to are interested in are top tier echelon. They're the kinds of people they can do what they want because they have what they want. And when I ask them, okay, well, what about that friend over there for you who works at this particular job and is friend to you? Oh, no, but I don't see him that way. That's fine, but know the person you're talking to then. Know the expectation of the kind of person you're talking to. If you're talking to that guy who is that level and is that person and brings it, 90% of the females that you encounter are also looking at that person. But that's the person you're dealing with. It's a reality of expectations.
Yeah, sadly for most, it's the truth that we don't want to hear, that your soulmate might, for lack of a better example, your soulmate might be a security guard, your soulmate might be in a taxi, or type of thing. So, but yeah, I think it's been an awesome conversation. I think mostly it was because when we spoke about intimacy, I think majority of us identified with the emotional part, and it also spoke to the EQ of a person, but mostly being able to be vulnerable with a person. The spirituality, obviously, of it is important, and the experiential of it, because sometimes you are able to build a better bonds with someone because you've gone through the same experiences, you both understand, and etc. But as we wrap up today's chat on intimacy, I think it's clear that it's not just about the physical, even though some of it for other people might just be just about the physical. So whether it's during a deep conversation or laughing at an inside joke or just being comfortable in silence, intimacy goes way beyond what we usually just think of it, So thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Thank you for your insight. I feel like I personally am a better person based on this conversation. In fact, I feel like it's just motivated me to have more of these conversations with the men in my life, so that, we don't just listen to, when we gather as women and we're like, no, but men are like this, men are like this, men are like that, so I feel like it's even given us I don't know, a certain way on those conversations to say, no, but guys, do you know that when you do this, guys don't appreciate this? The reason why sometimes guys are afraid to be emotional, it's because of, I keep disappearing. It's because of us and how we take their vulnerabilities and maybe use them against them. And I just want to thank you again for opening up and for being honest with us. And I'd like to thank the people that were watching as well. And I just hope that we've learned so much, like I have. Let me tell you one thing. We are going to have the same conversation, but with a panel of ladies and a gent that will be hosting them. So we must just stay tuned. And thank you so much to SYT for allowing me the opportunity to have this conversation. I feel like I need to go and learn more and open my ears more and not judge guys, but be more open-minded. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.